All right, guys, we are back again. This will be our bracket special. Just Greg and I so far. Matt's running late. He should be on, and Mark is at his day job, so he will not be joining us tonight. So what we're going to do is we're going to reveal our first 2 rounds of picks, and then our final 4. We'll kind of go over that, I believe. Final 4
Yeah.
championship game. So I guess we'll just start with the East and work our way down to the West. Do the
Works for
left
me.
side of the bracket, basically.
Do you want to do it by quadrant? So like like say you do your East picks, then I do my East picks, and then
Yeah.
maybe the next one I do first, and you go second, and etc.
I don't know what you just said, but sure.
Yeah, just basically each quadrant. So like not you like you wouldn't do your whole first round picks.
No, I'll do the East first round. Then you do the East first round,
Yeah, okay.
and I do the West. Yeah, you quadrant. That's a big name, big word, dude. You got to
Sorry.
say East, West, South, North, man.
All right, all right.
Small and to the point.
All right. East, north, south, west, all those directions.
So, do you want to go first, or
Go ahead. I'll let
all
you
right?
go.
So we're
Have
starting with the
on.
East. The first game is UConn versus Stetson. I went with UConn.
Well, wild pick.
Wild pick. Next game, FAU versus Northwestern. I went with Northwestern. Next game, San Diego State versus UAB. I went San Diego State. Next game is Auburn versus Yale. I went Auburn. Next game is BYU versus Duquesne. I went with Duquesne.
Ooh, okay.
Next game is Illinois versus Morehead State. I went with Illinois. Next game is Washington versus Drake. I went with Drake.
Drake.
And that might be Washington State. I don't know. Washington or Washington State. And then the final game in that quadrant, fancy word, is Iowa State versus South Dakota State. And I went with Iowa State.
Okay. All right. Well, be prepared to be blown away here. Because for me, with the UConn Stetson game, I went with UConn.
Hmm.
The FAU versus Northwestern, I went with Northwestern. San Diego State versus UAB, I went with San Diego State. Auburn versus Yale, I went with Auburn. BYU versus Duquesne, I went with BYU.
Ooh. More mania.
Oh, yeah. Illinois versus Morehead State, I went with Illinois. Washington State versus Drake, I went with Drake.
Cool.
And Iowa State versus South Dakota State, I went with Iowa State.
So our only difference is the BYU Duquesne game.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yep.
And I almost picked BYU, but I just figured I got to throw an upset or two out there.
Yeah.
And honestly, until this moment, I didn't realize I picked 2 upsets in the same quadrant.
You
I
did it in
didn't
the
realize
same quadrant?
the Drake thing, but the Drake's less of an upset. It's a 10-7 game, so it's not
Yeah.
as intense. Even though Duquesne's just 11-6, but it feels further, much further away.
It does, because I feel like 10-7 is close. But then,
Yeah.
like you said, when you get to the 11-6 and higher, it feels a
Yeah.
lot further.
But yeah. I don't know why I picked Duquesne. Really, just I just don't have a good feeling about BYU. It's more of a bad feeling about them than a good feeling about Duquesne, I guess.
Okay.
What did you have a philosophy behind it, or was it just like a bingo bango?
I think it's just BYU's like key games comparison.
Oh yeah.
Uh, I just went with that. I felt like they had a stronger resume. I could be wrong at this point. Well, I think I can look at it still actually. Because I used the comparison here. Okay, yeah. So like BYU, they beat Iowa State, they beat Baylor, they beat Kansas, they beat TCU, and then
Okay.
Duquesne, they beat St. Bonaventure Bonnies, VCU Rams twice, and Dayton Flyers.
Okay. That
So
makes sense. I didn't look that deep into it, but
their Dayton win is a big win, but
huge.
I decided to go with the Big 12.
All right, so we'll do the West first round.
Okay.
First game is North Carolina versus Wagner. I went North Carolina. Next game, Mississippi State versus Michigan State. I just wrote MSU, so I can't lose. No, I picked Michigan State in that one.
I say nice try. The internet will know.
I know the internet screwed me on that one, right? The old school paper one. I could have just wrote MSU and been like, "Oh yeah, that's the one I meant."
Yeah, that one.
But then the next game is St. Mary's versus Grand Canyon. I went St. Mary's.
Okay.
Next game, Alabama Charleston. I went Alabama.
What? You picked Alabama?
Basketball. And then Clemson versus New Mexico. I went with New Mexico.
Ooh.
Baylor versus Colgate, not the toothpaste. I picked Baylor. Dayton versus Nevada. I went Dayton.
Okay.
And then Arizona versus Long Beach State. I went with Arizona, even though my heart wanted to go Long Beach State because did you hear the story about that coach?
No.
So the story is right before the conference tournament, he got fired. But the
Oh,
school said, we'll let you coach through the conference tournament, you
yeah.
know, whatever. Okay, cool. Well, they won the whole damn conference tournament when they shouldn't have. So now they're in the regular tournament. And he was like, in a press conference today, and he was like, he was like, I'll answer whatever questions I feel like since I'm doing this for free.
Oh, that's
Like in a
great.
joking way. But yeah, he's like, I'll
Yeah.
only answer what I want to because I'm doing this for free. So
Uh,
then he brought up the Costanza. He's like, remember watching Seinfeld, the Costanza episode where he kept trying to get fired and he couldn't get fired? Yeah, that's me right now. So,
well,
so
I'm rooting for them now.
I'm rooting for them, but I didn't pick them. So,
Right.
all right, you go ahead.
All right. So North Carolina versus Wagner. I went with North Carolina. Shocker. Mississippi State versus Michigan State. I went with Michigan State as well.
Ooh.
St. Mary's versus Grand Canyon. I went with St. Mary's. Alabama versus Charleston. I went with Alabama. Clemson versus New Mexico. I went with New Mexico Lobos as well. Family ties.
Yes.
Baylor versus Colgate. I went with Baylor. Dayton versus Nevada. I went with our little brother from the north, Dayton. And then Arizona versus Long Beach State. I went with excuse me with Arizona, but I am now rooting for Long Beach State.
So we
So
we were exactly the same in that quadrant, weren't we?
yeah.
Thus far. All right. So now the first round of the South. Houston versus Longwood. Went with Houston.
Okay.
Nebraska versus A&M. I went A&M. Wisconsin versus James Madison. I picked James Madison with the upset. That's my 12-5.
Okay.
Yeah, I picked 112-5. That's my 12-5. Then Duke versus Vermont. I took Duke. Tech versus NC State. I went with Tech, even though NC State's pretty hot coming out of their ACC tournament win, but
Yeah.
still went Tech. UK versus Oakland. I mean, UK, begrudgingly.
Yeah.
Florida versus Boise State / Colorado. I picked Boise State / Colorado.
Oh, okay.
So a little 10-7 upset there. So specifically, if I had to pick one team, I'm hoping Boise State, but I don't know. Was that game played yet? Or is that being played now? That's the playing game or whatever.
I'm not sure what time that when that one is. I
That might
guess
be
tonight.
that might be tonight. I don't know.
Oh yeah,
And
it has
then
to
Marquette
be.
versus Western Kentucky. I went with Marquette.
All right. Well, all right. So for me, Houston versus Longwood, I went with Houston. Nebraska versus Texas A&M, I went with Nebraska,
Oh,
which is weird because I don't think of them as a basketball school,
they're not. They're chess.
but I went with them. Wisconsin versus James Madison, I went with James Madison as well.
Did you really? Hilarious.
Yep, I did. This is kind of scary.
Yep.
Duke versus Vermont, I went with Duke. Texas Tech versus NC State, I did go with NC State. I went with the hot hand. Kentucky versus Oakland, like you said, I went with Kentucky. Not that I want them to win, but kind of have to pick them. Florida versus Boise State / Colorado, I went with Florida. And then Marquette versus Western Kentucky, I went with Marquette.
All right. So there's a couple
So,
differences. I
yep.
understand the Florida one because it's kind of a weird one to pick because of the playing game.
Yeah.
And then
I
Nebraska,
mean,
where there's a reason behind that.
not that I remember. I'm not gonna lie.
It's one of those.
Yeah, because I mean, 8 versus a 9. What I did was probably looked at like their average points versus defense and just went with that.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't have much of a reason behind mine. Mine was just Nebraska really hasn't impressed me, so I just went with A&M.
It's almost like a coin flip with the 8 9s.
Yeah.
The one that kills me though is the James Madison one.
I know we both picked that. I'm like, Jiminy. And we've picked probably like 98% the same here so far.
Oh, and this is our most different quadrant so far.
Yep. So now we go to the Midwest.
All right.
First game is Purdue versus a playing game. I picked Purdue. I wasn't gonna try. Was that Montana State and someone Graham? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either actually.
Doesn't matter. Then Utah State, Texas Christian University. I went with TCU. Gonzaga versus McNeese. I went with Gonzaga. Kansas versus Samford. I went Kansas. South Carolina versus Oregon. I went with Oregon.
Okay.
Creighton versus Akron. I went Creighton. Texas versus Colorado State. I went Texas. And Tennessee versus St. Peter's. I went Tennessee.
All right. So for me, with Purdue versus the MTST/Graham, I went with Purdue. Utah State versus TCU, I went with TCU. Gonzaga versus McNeese, I went with Gonzaga. Kansas versus Samford, I went with Kansas. South Carolina versus Oregon, as you say, I went with Oregon as well. Creighton versus Akron, I went with Creighton. Texas versus Colorado State, I went with Texas. And Tennessee versus St. Peter's, I went with Tennessee. So we had that one exactly the same.
That is real wild.
Yeah. So the both lower quadrants were the same.
That's wild. Half the bracket on the first round.
Yeah.
All right, now we move on to our round of 32, aka the second round.
All right.
East. And how mine was set up was UConn versus Northwestern, and I chose UConn to win that.
Okay.
Then I had San Diego State versus Auburn, and I took San Diego State. Then I had Duquesne, Illinois. Is that right? Hold on. Am I
Yeah, that
reading
would
that
be
right?
right.
Huh?
That's right.
Oh yeah. So I picked Illinois. Did I miss? I feel like I missed something. Maybe I didn't.
Nope, you're
All
good.
right.
You're good.
And then Drake, Iowa State. I picked Iowa State.
Okay. So for me, I have UConn versus Northwestern. I did UConn. Then I had San Diego State versus Auburn. I went with Auburn in that one. Then I have BYU versus Illinois. I went with BYU. And then I have Drake versus Iowa State, and I went with Iowa State as well.
All right. So second round starts getting changed up a bit depending on our matchups.
Yep.
All right. And then the West, I had North Carolina, Michigan State. I went with North Carolina. And then St. Mary's, Bama. I went with St. Mary's. Baylor, New Mexico. I went Baylor. And then Dayton, Arizona. I took Dayton.
Okay. Yeah, we're having some differences in this one now. So for me, North Carolina versus Michigan State, I went with North Carolina. St. Mary's versus Alabama, I went with St. Mary's. New Mexico versus Baylor, I went with New Mexico.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. That was my wild card one there.
That's what just lost you the whole thing.
And then Dayton versus Arizona, I have to call my cousin then if that's the case. I'm like, yo, your team ruined it for me.
Call them now.
Dayton versus Arizona, I went with Arizona.
Perfect. Perfect. All right. So welcome, Matt. You have made it. I see.
What up? What up? Sorry about the delay, boys.
You're
No
all
problem.
good. So all we're doing is we're going through our first two rounds of picks. via the NCAA bracket.
All right.
So we will, I guess we can wrap up real quick the second half of it, and then you can come in and let us know what you have picked.
Okay.
And then we'll all touch on our Final Four teams.
That works.
So Greg and I will continue on just to finish up our rotation. So in the South, second round, I had Houston versus A&M. I picked Houston. Then I had James Madison versus Duke. I took James Madison.
Oh,
I
okay.
don't think Duke has it in them. Then I went Tech versus UK. I took UK. Then I had Marquette versus Boise / Colorado. I picked Marquette.
All right. So I have Houston versus Nebraska. I went with Houston. James Madison versus Duke. I went with Duke.
Oh, and you call yourself a Carolina fan.
I don't want Duke to win. NC State versus Kentucky. I have Kentucky, which I don't like doing. And then Florida versus Marquette. I have Marquette.
All right. And then in the final Midwest quadrant, we learned a new word today, Matt. He taught me a new word, quadrant.
Nice.
That's the word of the day.
Word of the day. So my first game in the second round was Purdue versus TCU. And I picked TCU. Yeah. Them
Ooh.
Texas Christians. Then Gonzaga versus Kansas. Gonzaga. Then I had Oregon versus Creighton. Went with Creighton. Then Tennessee versus Texas. I went Tennessee.
All right. So I have Purdue versus TCU. I went with Purdue. Then Gonzaga versus Kansas. I went with Gonzaga. Oregon versus Creighton. I went with Creighton. And Texas versus Tennessee. I went with Tennessee.
Wow.
So we have one difference so far in that quadrant after 2 rounds.
So Matt, Greg, and I eerily picked similar in this mostly entire bracket. So I guess we'll see if you're different than us because we're in sync for probably 95% of the picks in the first 2 rounds, which is wild.
Okay. Well, I guess here goes. So just starting at the top, I've got UConn over Stetson. UConn's a monster. I got Florida Atlantic over Northwestern.
Ooh.
I got San Diego State over UAB. Auburn over Yale because Bruce Pearl is a great coach in March. Duquesne taking down BYU. Illinois taking down Morehead State. Drake over Washington State. The Cyclones taking down South Dakota State. Jackrabbits go down. So that was the first, I guess.
I will say you and Brian have Duquesne in that round, in that quadrant.
All right. Well, I don't think he has them going as far as I do, but
all right.
We'll see. So then I've got into the next into the West, I got North Carolina over Wagner. I got Sparty taking down Mississippi State. The Gales of St. Mary's taking down Grand Canyon. Roll Tide over Charleston. The Lobos over Clemson. Baylor over Colgate. Then I've got Dayton over Nevada. And Arizona over Long Beach State.
All right, time out.
Okay.
You match me and Brian on that quadrant.
For real?
Yep. So all 3 of us have the same exact first round picks for the West.
I mean, I really don't see anything crazy going on except for, like I said, New Mexico. But even then, that's not even that crazy of an upset because
how
weak the ACC has been this year.
And New Mexico has been playing well.
Yeah. All conspiracies aside, I don't know if you've heard about how CBS broadcast the Mountain West. So that's why they got so many teams in.
I did not hear about that, but
well, it's out there. It's on the internet.
Oh, and here's Brian. I want to mention something. Matt picked exactly the same as we did in the West quadrant.
That's wild, dude. Wow. So I guess we're gonna be the final three, kind of going for the money there.
I guess so.
Well, we got a couple other quadrants here. So
All
Yeah.
right.
moving into the South, I've got Houston over the Longwood, Nebraska taking down Texas A&M with Japanese Steph Curry.
Japanese
I'm
stuff.
taking the Badgers over James Madison,
Oh,
Duke over the Catamounts. NC State continues their wild ride, takes down Texas Tech, and then the Wildcats, Kentucky over Oakland, Flaw over whoever the fuck's gonna make it in the playing game, and then Marquette.
okay. So you match me, Matt, except for James Madison.
Right on. I mean, I imagine that as the brackets move on, things will start getting a little bit different. But
Yeah,
Yeah, it'll
far,
shake up.
they did
Yeah.
for me and Brian already with the second round.
so yeah. All right. So then moving to the Midwest, I think that Purdue finally beats a 16 seed. Utah State takes care of TCU because I watched a lot of them this year and they are not that good. The Zags over McNeese. Stanford over Kansas. I do
Oh,
not think that even with Dickerson and whoever that other guy was that was out during the tournament, I don't think that they're going to beat Stanford. I think Kansas is susceptible this year.
yeah.
Got Oregon over South Carolina. Here's a tidbit for you. The coach of Oregon has never lost in the first round since he's been the head coach. They've always had like these little sneaky runs to the Sweet 16. So I'm rolling with Oregon,
Whack,
taking
whack.
Creighton over Akron, Colorado State over Texas, and
Dion
then the
doesn't play for
Volunteers.
him. Nice. Yeah, you're close to ours, but you had some differences. Like Brian and I had Oregon in that as well. The big difference is we had Kansas,
Right on.
Yeah.
or the only no, in TCU you had Utah State.
Yeah, we went with the Texas Christians.
Yep.
No horny frogs. All right, so then in the second round, I got the Huskies of UConn over Florida Atlantic, Sweet 16 bound. Auburn over the Aztecs. I got Duquesne upsetting Illinois going to the Sweet 16. And then Drake over Iowa State.
Whoa,
So that is
Drake.
bracket of chaos in the bottom part, but you still got the heavyweights in the top part. But there's always a bracket like that where there's like one region where all hell breaks loose going into the Sweet 16. So
Yeah.
why not that one?
Hopefully for you it's that one, but hopefully not.
Exactly. All right. So then moving to the West, everybody's liking the Tar Heels, but I think Tom Izzo is getting back to the Sweet 16. Upsets North Carolina, Michigan State takes them down. I got St. Mary's over Alabama, New Mexico over Baylor, and then Arizona over Dayton.
I have New Mexico too. Go Lobos.
Yeah, go Lobos. So a little bit of turmoil in that one. Because I
Yeah.
really don't trust your Tar Heels, but we shall see. So then moving to the South, I got Houston, Rock Chalk with Houston over Nebraska, Wisconsin over the Dukies, Kentucky over NC State, Florida over Marquette. Shaka Smart hasn't made it to the Sweet 16 since he was the head coach of VCU. So let that sink in. He does not do well in March, and he bit me in the ass last year. I don't trust him. Fuck you, Shaka.
Do you leave teeth marks?
Yeah, chomp, chomp, chomp.
Shaka, not so smart.
Exactly. All right, and then moving to the Midwest, Purdue over Utah State, Gonzaga over Stanford. I like Creighton a lot. Creighton over Oregon, and then Tennessee. I'm pretty chalky in that region. Aside from Stanford upsetting Kansas.
All
Yeah,
right.
you have 3 of the 4 are the same ones as I have.
Right on.
Pretty
So
fun.
then what I guess what do you guys have as your final four?
Final
Boom, boom,
four.
boom. Here we go.
Greg, you want to lead us off?
Sure. So with the final 4, I suggest that we do from each region, so we alternate through. So like, I'll say who I got from the East, for example.
All right.
I went with Iowa State.
All right.
All right. Go ahead, Matt.
I got UConn.
That's a good one.
I will say Mark Lawrence's also has UConn. He sent in his
Okay.
final four. Myself, I picked Iowa State.
There you go, Bay. There we go. So we have the Lawrences versus the Studs in this one.
Yeah.
The Cyclones are getting dusted away, man.
Then we want to do the West next.
Yep. So from the West, I have this is going to shock you guys. The North Carolina Tar Heels.
Matt.
So obviously I have them losing in the second round. I have Arizona, Caleb Love playing against the Huskies. Zona v UConn.
So Mark has Baylor.
Oh,
The Baylor. What?
It's funny you say that. It's funny you say that because Brian
You have
has
Baylor.
Baylor.
yeah.
So me and Mark
Well, I
are
was-
together. United front. Me and
I was
Mark
listening
Lawrence.
to I was listening to some podcast and they were they were talking about Baylor and it's like sometimes they look like the best team in the country. And then the other time it looks like they don't know how to play basketball. It's kind of like the Bearcats.
True. But
I
you
got
know.
you. But yeah, everybody's got to have different picks. So it
Makes
makes
it more fun.
Yeah, makes it all exciting.
So South Gregory.
Yeah. So with the South, I went with Houston of the Big 12.
I also went with Houston. I think that defense and Snead, I think he's going to be making big plays. Think they finally get through. So, yeah, I'm taking Houston as well.
Mark Lawrence selected Houston.
All right.
Brian Bay selected Houston.
It's unanimous.
Sweep on Houston.
Clean sweep.
4-way sweep on Houston. So yeah, I just think they look like one of the best teams in the country. So it's just gonna be hard.
Yep.
You know, hard going there. Then we got the Midwest.
All right. For the Midwest, representing the Midwest, I have Creighton.
Oh my God. How much crack did you smoke before you picked that?
I mean,
I picked it in the morning.
it's pretty crazy because I also have Creighton.
Oh my God.
And we shared
What
the
a
same
time
pipe.
to be alive.
Dude, they're really good in offense and defensive, whatever metric they use. Creighton's up there, so I'm rolling with the Blue Jays.
Creighton. All right, well, Mark, probably the one that's truly the crackhead, picked Kansas.
Ha! Kansas.
I don't think that's happening.
I got them losing in the first round.
Yeah.
I so hope that Sanford wins.
Yeah, I don't see Kansas getting there, so I have to go against Mark on that.
Yeah.
I selected Tennessee.
Okay.
All right.
The SEC.
The Volunteers. Okay, and then who do you guys got winning it all?
We're gonna do the championship, right?
Yeah. Go ahead, Greg.
So my championship matchup for the 2024 March Madness is the North Carolina Tar Heels versus Houston of the Big 12.
Wow. Someone went with their heart.
Oh
Nice.
yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yes. I'm not going to deny it.
And I picked UConn over the Houston. Picked UConn over Houston. I think
Oh, you're
that
saying who you
that's
picked?
back.
I didn't say who's going to win. Should I say that?
You can.
All right.
No, my bad.
Oh, you're good. You're good. I went with North Carolina. My heart. So the nice thing is, if I happen to be right, I'm probably the only one that picked them.
You
Yeah.
are. Because
So
Mark did UConn versus Houston and picked UConn, winning it
okay.
all. My championship game is Baylor Houston. And I have
Okay.
Baylor winning it all. Let's go. Baylor Bears, baby. Ha ha. Upset of the year. No one saw it coming.
Are you going to continue your streak, Brian?
I've been on fire. And my points, I picked 142 combined.
Oh, I went with 155.
Right on. I got 149, so gives you a
Mark
little.
looks like he put 75, but that can't be right. He must have missed the one in front of it. Because he put
Mark went
points.
with 75.
Yeah, he put points, but his second word was "ngot." Like, so he was mistyping something, I think. And then 75. And I was like, I can't imagine he thinks it's going to be 75 total points. So,
Yeah,
I hope that's
Virginia
just a typo.
saying that.
But yeah, I don't know. I'll be honest. I don't know if Baylor's going to win it all, but I just was having kind of fun with it too. If I had to put real money on it, I'd probably pick Houston.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. I mean, like you called me out on already. Like I just went with North Carolina because then I'm like, I'm going to root for them. And if they win, they win. Sweet. But like you were saying, I was having fun with it. And like even earlier in the bracket, one with New Mexico, I was one that, I mean, they are playing good right now. But I also just kind of did it because ties.
yeah. And usually when I think I know what I'm doing, I end up being wrong any freaking way.
Yeah.
So that's the only reason I didn't pick Michigan State over North Carolina with you, Matt, was because every time I pick Michigan State to do anything, they screw me. Every time they screw me. Now, when I don't pick them, they win the whole damn thing. And
Yeah.
every year I've picked them, which is more years than I should, they always screw me and lose early.
I feel you. I've had that happen before, so I'm hoping this is the year that they actually win a few games, but
Yeah.
And actually, that Brian says that I've had Michigan State screw me as well. Like when I
Yeah.
pick them to win it all or get to the Final Four, they lose like in the Sweet 16 or something. Like, well, I'm done.
And I know you shouldn't think like that or pick like that because it's a new year, it's a new team and all that, but you just get that bad taste in your mouth
Right.
where you're like, this team screwed me before. I'm not picking them bastards ever again.
Right.
dude, Gonzaga's also done the same shit. It's like every year that they make a run, I'm like, they're gonna flame out. And then the years I'm like, they've got this locked up. They
Yeah.
fucking get bounced in the second round.
You
You're
guys
like,
remember? You guys remember when Gonzaga was a Cinderella school?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Heard of them?
the coach of Oakland. He was the head coach of Gonzaga the first year they made that run.
Oh, okay.
Weird random story that I found out. But yeah, he was the head coach before Mark Few, where they went to the Sweet 16?
At least I feel like.
Yeah, and they were playing they might have even made the Elite Eight, but what's even crazier is he got fired by Oakland before the conference tournament, and then they won the conference tournament or some crazy thing like that. And then they were like, "Oh, hey, do you want to just coach us while we play in the NCAA tournament?"
You talking about Oakland or Long Beach? Because Brian told me the same story about.
Long Beach. Sorry.
Okay.
It's all
Yeah.
West Coast, whatever.
I know. I know. I just want to make sure.
Crapshoot.
That's funny to me. It's like, hey, you want to keep coaching?
You may as well. So,
Right?
not that they have a chance of winning the whole damn thing, but if they did, that'd be pretty cool.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
Just a way to walk
Right.
off.
Yeah.
Then he should go
Does
get
the
a job at
work.
whoever the rival is.
Yeah.
Yeah, whoever their big rival is, he should just say, "All right, I'm hired over there now."
I'll see you later, fellas.
Yeah,
We're picking this guy up.
picking them up off waivers. Oh man, but yeah, no, I'm excited for the tournament. It'd be more exciting if the Bearcats were in it, but
Yeah.
still pretty excited for it overall.
We get to watch them tonight in the NIT.
Yeah,
Woo!
they play San Francisco.
Yeah. Bill Russell University,
Yep.
the
So no,
Dons.
yeah, I don't watch a lot of the NIT. I saw Xavier lost though,
I
didn't they? That's pretty clutch.
Yeah, I think they were down like 20. They made a furious rally and then
Yeah,
ultimately fell short. But who cares? Fuck Xavier.
yeah.
Exactly.
They
Yeah.
beat us this year. Tons of bitches.
Exactly. Yep.
Somehow, that just tail 2 seasons with Bearcats though.
Yeah.
Tail 2 seasons. That's why I've always liked. I wish the crosstown shootout was later in the season.
Yeah.
A few weeks after conference play starts, kind of throw it in there for fun. It used to be like that back in the day. I just feel like both teams have a better chance to get warmed up and really become themselves a little more.
Yeah. Instead of making it like it's kind of like almost close to the exhibition game at this point. It's so early in the season.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, I wish it was later. They need to have more of a rivalry week like they do in the college football. Like a
Yeah.
late season rivalry week kind of thing. Like Florida State, they're not the same conference, but they always play at the end of the season. So do a little link up like that. Just doesn't have to be last game, but later in the season.
Yeah. I think that'd be better. Because, like you said, you finding yourselves and you get in your groove and you get the real teams at that point.
Yeah.
Like it's not to change it to the NFL, but it's kind of like I'm not a fan of starting your year against a division rival.
No, I don't either. I think you should be able to ease in with, it can be in conference, but it just not in the division.
Right, because the division means so much. So like you're telling me you're gonna come off, you're gonna start the season that way, and I mean, yeah, I also said because it hurts us because we don't play a lot of our guys in the preseason, and then you have to start the season back to back division games.
Yeah.
But anyways, that's football. We talk about football plenty, so
No, I'm with you. I feel you. But yeah, I think it'll be exciting. So next week we'll kind of do the same thing, maybe a little bit different because we'll have a lot of teams that we don't have anymore. So
yeah.
then
We
we'll
got
have
the-
everybody's brackets too. What's that, Matt?
We got the Masters coming up.
We do. We do. What's
So
that date?
that I'm not sure. I gotta fucking
Soon. That and the Derby's both coming up, so we'll do something for both of those.
Yeah.
The Derby, I know for a fact, is always the first weekend of May.
Yeah. So
But the golf, clicking, searching, schedule.
While you're looking that up, I will throw it out there too. We have the MLB season kicking off Thursday.
Actually, it's already kicked off. South
Technically.
Korea, they're
Does that count?
playing.
yeah.
Yeah,
Ah, okay. I wasn't sure
It's
about
stupid
that.
that it counts, but it counts.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because I agree that stupid accounts because I saw that obviously, but I was like, this must be like some type of special thing they do. Like, you know how like they have exhibition games overseas to showcase our
Yeah.
talent. So
But
that
I
counts
think
for a
it's
regular game. That's
more
dumb.
that I think it's because it's the Dodgers and the Padres and Shohei's involved that they wanted to, kind of get the Asian market where everybody loves Shohei. He's their Babe Ruth more or less. So
Yeah, that's what I thought. It was just to do that. I didn't think it actually count it against for their schedule. But so I'll rephrase it. The Red season starts next Thursday.
yeah,
Did you hear about Shohei Tani's interpreter, by the way, Matt?
no,
He was busted for stealing a lot of funds from the guy he works for, Mr. Otani.
Millions.
placing bets, like funneling shit, like
Yeah.
It was
Marty
to cover his
Bird.
gambling.
Yeah, Marty
Yeah.
Bird and what is that? Ozark,
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Ozark shit.
Freaking insane, dude.
Of course. So I got it up finally. Masters is April 11th to the 14th, so
Okay.
right around the corner.
Cool. So definitely do at least a preview show if nothing else, maybe a live or something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Try it out.
yeah, and then for future reference, PGA Championship, Matt's gonna be down at Valhalla on May 16th, so I'll be doing like a live feed or a live video or something.
Sweet.
Send it.
Sounds badass. The only little tidbit I have of off sports is that the Olympics is going to have a red zone style.
Oh my
show.
God. I completely forgot about the fucking Olympics.
Yeah, it's coming up. So you know how Scott Hansen does the NFL red zone and just shows basically all the scoring plays and highlights. But they're going to have it's called Gold Zone. So you'll be able to watch him and it'll kind of go through like the big moments that are happening. So it'd be kind of cool for those that don't want to watch like all the Olympics and just kind of see the highlights.
Yeah.
So,
Right on.
Cool.
but I'm a big Olympian person, so I will watch the whole thing.
Yeah, I'm down to watch. I just like completely forgot.
Yeah.
It was.
Well, it's also late summer, like it's like August or something like that. So it's not,
Wasn't it in July when we were kids? Or am I just
I thought so. June and July, I thought, but now it's always like late in the year.
Yeah.
I mean, I imagine that it kind of varies depending on what country's hosting it.
True.
Yeah.
So, like more like summery conditions.
Yeah, they got to make sure it's warm enough.
Yeah.
So, but it'll be exciting. We have a lot of good sports here coming up, so a lot of content to hit on.
Oh heck yeah. Which I'll bring up one little tidbit for us local folk. The big news of Skyline switching over to Coca-Cola.
Blasphemy.
What? It's just soda.
Blasphemy. Blasphemy. But
They're
nothing
still
better
gonna
than a
suck
Mountain
forever.
Dew with a 3-way.
Are you gonna start sneaking in 20 ounces?
Pouring it in.
I'd put a cup of ice.
No, it was really, honestly, it was their Mountain Dew too, though. So we'll just have to get used to Mellow Yellow. But it's just kind of like, everybody's like, McDonald's has the Sprite that hits, and Taco Bell has the Baja.
Yeah.
Skyline
Like
had the Mountain Dew.
That's like all like that's all designed because they have it in like stainless steel tanks and
Yeah.
the way they distribute it.
But I just feel like Skylines, man, that Mountain Dew hit with it. So, but there's a big to do, man. They have that list that you can sign up for, the boycott list or whatever. So
Why don't they just get Mountain Dew?
I'm sure it's contractional.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure they could work something out though, right?
You would think. You'd think the smart move these days would just be having both of everything.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not like Pepsi and Coke are going to put each other out of business. It's not like one's going to eventually, that ship has sailed. It's not, the 1940s where one could go out of business.
Yeah.
Yeah, because for example, like if Brian and I went to Skyline, he would get his Mountain Dew and I'd get my Coke.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to see them in the same quadrant so we could choose,
Yeah, I think so too. But yeah, I think whatever restaurant pulls that off first is going to be that's the move.
Yeah.
Or like they have that Coca-Cola machine with all the 100 flavors in there. Just throw Pepsi in with it and move on with life.
Yeah. And
maybe if you want to throw RC Cola in there for those down south folk.
Oh yeah, RC.
The Royal
RC
Cola.
I think the only places I see that on tap anymore is maybe like a Chinese joint or something. And that's even rare, just like they got an old RC 7-Up freaking tap.
RC, Mr. Pibb, Hawaiian Crush.
What's funny though, what's funny about the move is they kept Dr. Pepper. They did not go to Mr. Pibb.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
They actually stayed with Dr. Pepper. Yeah, because Dr. Pepper's on that neutral. They're like Switzerland. They're their own company, so they can kind of do whatever they want.
Yeah, pretty awesome.
Maybe they should secretly put Mountain Dew in that, and people think they're getting Dr. Pepper, and then it's a secret Mountain Dew.
It's a secret Mountain Dew.
The secret menu.
Yeah.
But
So you can get your
But no.
7.
it's not as bad as when Frisch's tried to go to Pepsi from Coke, and they were trying to get.
Oh, I know.
That was horrible. I was actually mad about that one. I
Yeah, I
wanted my
remember
vanilla
that.
Coke.
Yeah, exactly.
That one I was mad about. But honestly, the Skyline one, I think I can deal with Mellow Yellow. They also are gonna have Powerade, which is clutch. I love Powerade on tap.
Nice.
So
Which, Brian, when you brought up Frisch's, made me think of another news that we're getting a DQ.
I know we are right next to the Frisch's and Cheviot.
Yeah,
Dairy
Oh, nice.
Queen.
Blizzard.
Yeah, I'll be getting Blizzard
Exactly.
daily. Oh, another fun fact too. Another company is Subway is going to in 2025. They're going from Coke to Pepsi.
interesting.
So that one doesn't affect me at all because I couldn't even remember which one they had till I read it.
Yeah,
I don't go there enough to realize which one they had, but
I haven't been to Subway in a while, so
yeah, I don't eat fresh very often anymore.
yeah. And if I do, I get like Jersey Mike's or Penn Station or something. Jimmy
Yeah.
John.
Now I do remember the Reds.
Mike destroys Subway.
Who was
And
that? Jersey Mike's.
The Jersey Mike's destroys Subway.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Jersey Mike's is so much better. The only thing I miss is Quiznos for hot subs.
I like
Yeah.
Quiznos. Yeah, I like them.
I miss some Quiznos, but I do remember also bringing back to baseball. I remember when the Reds went from Pepsi to Coke. Because remember the tall stacks used to be the Pepsi tall stacks
Yep.
initially, and a few seasons in they switched to Coke. So, and still serve it today, as far as I know.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know. We can find out soon.
Yep. Because in our section, Greg, is the hot dog stand.
Yep.
Now, do you guys get season tickets?
The 13 game Saturday.
Yeah.
Oh,
Saturday.
nice. Hell yeah.
So, but all right. Well, I guess we can wrap up this recording. We'll see what we're
Yeah.
doing in our March Madness. So hopefully we'll have Mark back next week. He won't be too scared to
Right.
reveal his bracket. You got something, Matt?
Go Cats.
Go Cats.
Go
Take down
Cats.
the NIT.
NIT.
Not